All right, so far we have used the PPP method as a framework for designing a simple lesson and a way to organize our activities with a warm-up, presentation, practice, production, and a wrap-up. And we have used that to create a simple outline for a lesson. Now, your outline may be able to fit onto a single page or maybe several pages like this one, but really it's not quite a lesson plan yet. I would call this just a simple outline. Next, what we are going to do is take a blank lesson plan template to turn this simple lesson outline into a detailed lesson plan. As we mentioned, there's really nothing wrong with using something like this to teach your lesson. However, these lesson plan templates are going to make you more organized, and they're going to even make you more efficient with the way that you put your lesson plan together with all of your resources. And so these are what we're going to be using for the course. But this lesson plan template has a lot of the same information. It has a warm-up and a presentation and a practice. It has a lot of the same information, but it's presented and organized in a slightly different way. And so next we're going to be looking at a blank lesson plan template. And we're going to go through each of these sections one at a time so that you understand all the parts of a lesson plan and how to fill them out for this course. So this is a blank lesson plan template. It's really just some information at the start, and then it's 5 columns, which can continue for several pages, and then a reflection section at the end. Now let me quickly identify the different parts of this lesson plan so that you can begin familiarizing yourself with this template. And then there will be more in-depth videos on each of these sections later on. Now the template that we're using in this tutorial might look slightly different depending on what certificate course you're taking or what version of the lesson plan that you are using. So if it looks a little different than yours, that's going to be okay. But here's just a general overview of the different parts of the lesson plan. Now at the top of the lesson plan here is the lesson description. This is a place to identify yourself as well as some information about this lesson, including what's the name of this lesson or what's the topic that you're teaching. Below that is the learning outcomes. These are the specific goals, specific steps that you want your students to take by the end of the lesson. And this is how you make your lesson measurable. It's through learning outcomes. And we're going to show you how to make your learning outcomes measurable. Below the learning outcomes are 2 boxes. You have a resources needed box and a WHS box. The resources needed box is a complete list of all the resources that you need to teach this lesson. It's the stuff that you need to bring with you to the classroom if it's not already there. And it's really a consolidation of all the different resource columns throughout your lesson plan. We're going to get to those columns in a second. Next is the WHS box. WHS stands for Workplace Health and Safety, and this box is a place to write down notes to give the teacher instructions on how to make this lesson safe for the students. It's a set of special instructions for actions you need to take prior to the lesson. So we're going to discuss what you need to put in this box depending on what the lesson is that you're teaching, what the activities are in your lesson, and so on. Now below here are the 5 columns, and this is where a majority of the notes for your lesson plan go. And these include details about the activities that you're teaching, what learning outcome each activity is achieving, how much time is there for each activity, what are the groupings you're using for each of these activities, and what resources do you need. So we'll show you how to fill in these different columns and how to be really detailed and organized so that way you can make this lesson plan the best lesson plan that it can be. Now these columns continue sometimes for several pages. And then here at or near the end of your lesson plan is what we call the reflections section. So anytime you submit one of these lesson plans as part of the portfolio for your TESOL course, before you submit that lesson plan, you'll first need to teach the lesson to a set of students, and then you'll need to reflect on your teaching. And so depending on which lesson plan template you're using, there'll be a set of guided reflections for you to complete before you turn in that lesson plan. And then finally, some of our lesson plan templates have what we call a resources section. And this is just an additional set of templates that will help you quickly and easily create the resources you need to be able to teach this lesson. And we have some really great practical features in this part of our lesson plan, particularly in our digital versions of this lesson plan template. And that leads me to the last point, which is that this right here is a paper version of the lesson plan template. However, we also have some digital versions that we'd like to show you as well. So if you're not a big fan of writing your lesson plan down on paper, then it's worth looking into some of the digital versions that we have of these lesson plan templates. And we're always developing new tools for teachers, and this is one area where we often try to create digital versions of these templates in addition to the paper versions. So rather than writing on paper, we have digital versions that you can edit within a word processor on your computer, such as Microsoft Word or Apple Pages. And these versions often look just like the paper version, except they allow you to type the details of your lesson plan instead of writing them by hand. So if you're interested in this type of lesson plan, then it might be worth checking with your staff to see if they have a Microsoft Word or Apple Pages version of the lesson plan template. Now, because only some computers can run Microsoft Word and only some computers can run Apple Pages, another popular digital version of our lesson plan uses Google Slides instead. And Google Slides operates purely in the cloud. It doesn't matter what type of computer you have. So it makes it easier for teachers with all different types of computers to access this same lesson plan template. As you'll notice, it looks a little bit different than the paper version, but it has a lot of the same sections. But something that we really love about this particular digital version of the lesson plan is the resources section. And we're going to get into that more later, and hopefully you'll see why we really love this Google Slides version. Not only can you plan your lesson much like any other lesson plan template, but it's the ability to create resources and to be able to share them, even to create videos right here within your lesson plan. These are the reasons why we love our Google Slides version of our lesson plan template and why we often recommend using this over some of the other versions. Now, I don't just recommend grabbing whatever version you find and using that. It's always a good idea to check with your staff and to make sure that the lesson plan template you're using matches the one used at your TESOL course or your practice teaching location. So for example, a lot of times the reflections section of your lesson plan is very specific to the location where you're taking your TESOL course. And so it's worthwhile to check with your staff and not just see what versions of the lesson plan templates that they have available to you, whether they're digital or paper or whatever, but to make sure that the version you have in your hands is the version that's accepted as part of your TESOL course. So which version are you going to use? Is it going to be paper? Is it going to be digital? If it's digital, is it going to be something that works just on your computer? Or is it going to be something like Google Slides that will work on any computer that's connected to the internet? Now is a good time to figure these things out, since we're about to take a deep dive into all the different sections of this lesson plan and how to fill in each one of them.